Hey guys, I'm Johnny Flores. This is Draco. This is Lucia. This video is the 3 most important things you have to know about your bosal. Bonus point at the end, make sure to watch. We're going to be covering sizing, fitting, shaping, and more. We're going to be answering as many questions as I can. Enjoy. All right, number 1, shaping. This is very important. When you first buy your bosal, it's probably going to look a lot like that. It's going to be a teardrop, and your horse's face is not that shape. It's more rectangular. So how do we get it to look more like this? Well, there are a couple ways. The first way you can do is you can pinch the nose button in your hands and kind of push your bosal into something hard. I'll sometimes use a wall or cement block, and you get a nice wide shape. The other way to do it is to get a big can. I'm using enchilada sauce. You can get garbanzo beans or a can of peanut butter, something like that. And you put it nice and far into the heel knot. And then you tie the nose button closer together. And I'm using tape. I like tape. I think it's better than using string. It doesn't leave marks. And what that'll do is help stretch it out. And that works particularly well. I'll let you guys see that one more time. That works particularly well for these much harder hackamores. For softer hackamores, you could just use your hands. The reason why I like shaping them this way is that it'll fit rather close to her. And even right now, you can kind of see there's a little bit of daylight there. I can kind of stick my fingers. I want this to be even tighter, a tighter fit. The reason is that when I pull, say my left pull, she's going to feel all of the bosal move. She's going to feel it on her nose. She's going to feel it on her chin. She's going to feel it on these fat pockets by her lips. She's going to feel all that. That's all signal. That's all warnings. And it really helps them. The other way to shape a bosal, and this is something I had learned, I was talking to Doug Ingersoll about a year ago, and he had given me the critique to kind of widen out the hackamore a little bit. And what this will do is still allow space for the jowls, but it'll concentrate a little bit more of the pressure onto the bars, this bottom part here that works off the chin. So it's not quite as tight fitting, but it still fits pretty good. And I'm not above learning, so I tried using it that way. And what I have found was that there isn't quite as much signal, but there's a little bit more oomph to the pulls because the pulls are concentrated more on the chin. So I think it's great for showing. Day in and day out training, I think that the closer glove fit would be better. We'll move on to number 2, sizing. All right guys, number 2, this is fit. Super important. Please do not skip over this part of the video. This is how I like to fit my hackamores. Her eye, right about here, her nostril here. Hackamore sits right about in the middle, and that sits it on nice, strong, hard bone. If things get hairy, or maybe she gets caught on the Mecates on a fence or something and gets pulled hard, it's not going to hurt her. It's going to put all that pressure on nice, hard, strong bone. This is how I like to do it. There's another school of thought, and it's a rather old one, where you fit the hackamore lower. And I've heard of older cowboys such as Bobby Ingersoll fitting their hackamores like this. Now, it works really well, and it makes the horses really soft. The reason is that you're working off more sensitive cartilage. So that's the reason why I don't typically put it down. The only time that I put a hackamore low like that is when I'm out on trail or I'm at a show and I don't have anything else to change into. My horse is being a little bit snotty. I might put it just a hair lower. Just kind of listen, be quiet about stuff, stop it. And another thing about fitting is your Mecates. So if you notice this hackamore, not a lot of room, only about 2 fingers of room under her chin. She's like, what are you doing? This hackamore, this is the one that I actually started her with, her second one I was using with her. You notice, one, it fits a little bit higher, but there's almost an entire hand worth of room here. Now that means that I have more wraps than my Mecate to go. If you watch the how to tie your Mecates video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You do your wraps, pull your reins, you do your half hitch. Now the Mecates and the hackamore, super important together in how they fit the horse and how they work. You ask 100 trainers, how many wraps do you do on your hackamore? That probably about like 80, 90 are gonna tell you 2, all the time. But I found that 3 works really good. And 1 works really good for certain things. So for this hackamore, this one fits her with 1 wrap. And what I found with it is that it makes the hackamore a little bit quicker. It puts a little bit more oomph in my pulls, and it brings her head in just a little bit more. So for a horse that's coming along and knows their maneuvers and they just kind of need some polishing up, I'd use a smaller hackamore like that. This is the second one that I ever used working with her, and she learned almost everything in it. And it had 3 wraps. When she was really little, it had 4 wraps. And that provided a lot of signal. Sure, it looked a little bit funny having this giant thing under her chin, but there's a lot of weight there was a lot of warnings. Instead of going, hey, turn left, it was, hey, turn left, 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 there you go, left. It was a lot simpler. So that's just something else to consider with your fit, is what your goals are. If you're gonna be working slower, you're gonna be working faster, you know, things like that. We're gonna move on to our final point, which is sizing. All right, guys, number 3, sizing, super important. So you're at a store, Thrifty Horse and Norco, for example, they have a few of my Bosals, go check them out. And you're like, does this fit my horse? Is it too big? Is it too small? Very valid thing to worry about. Here's how you figure out the size of a Bosal. You're gonna get a piece of PVC, it's a pipe cutters from Home Depot, super cheap, 4.5 inches. You're gonna cut this PVC pipe 4.5 inches, and you're gonna bind it between the nose button and the side buttons, okay? You could contact your braider, see if they did a different measurement, but the general consensus is 4.5 inches. After you have that, you're gonna get your Bosal. Ideally, it won't be shaped. It'll be a nice teardrop shape, right? And you'll get your measuring tape. You'll measure to the inside of the nose button. So I'm gonna hold that right there, all the way to the inside of that heel knot. This Bosal measures just a hair over 11 inches. Which makes a lot of sense considering it fits my little quarter horse. Now, this big old behemoth of a Bosal, got like 3 or 4 years back. This is about 13.5 inches. Makes sense because it fits him and his gigantic nose. Now, if you're going to the store and the store has the size posted, you can kind of figure it out, just a generalization. 10 to 10.5 inches is Arab or real small horses. 10.5 to 11.5 is usually quarter horses. 11.5 to 12.5 is bigger headed horses. 12.5 and up, they're drafts, they're big old horses. And another thing, measuring. So there's a sizing chart here. I will put a picture for you guys, I'll post it. Something that I put in my order form, and you can kind of figure out for yourself how big your Bosal is gonna have to be. So this demonstration, very important here. Remember the sizing part, or the fitting part, I talked about how the Bosal goes in the middle of the nose. So you put your tape right about there. And then when coming under, a lot of people do this kind of funky. It just needs to be about a hair above where a curb chain would interact with the horse. So what, 2 fingers from the chin? And he's at about 22 3/4. Sounds about right. Again, I'll post that for you guys to make sure that you can check it out. And one more thing as far as sizing. Say you get your Bosal, and you're like, oh, this thing is beautiful. Oh, I love it so much. It just fits my horse. Yay, yay, yay. And it fits with 1 wrap for like a month. And then suddenly it stretches. You get 2 wraps. Bosals all stretch. No, they don't actually stretch like a rubber band. What happens is that when they're shaped funny and they're new and they're all round like that, and then they start to sweat and get used to the horse and start to wear out and shape more like that, all that space that was here gets transferred here, makes it look as if they stretched, but they didn't. Stay tuned for the final point on the Mecate rule. I know I keep saying things are super important, but this is super duper important. The equal Mecate rule. So, you can believe it or not, these 2 hackamores fit this giant horse. Look at that size difference right there. Now, the reason why they work like that is because the size difference of the Mecates. Now, these are 3/8. This is a 1/4 inch. So they work about the same. Notice, this is really small. And this 5/8 Mecate right here, this is really big. Now, they're both the same size as the Bosals. And they should be that way because when you're tying it, you won't ruin it. I'll make another video on that later. But, you know, 2 wraps with a 5/8 Mecate, that's pretty dang big. 2 wraps with a 1/4 inch Mecate or 3/8, it's really little. It's only like that big. I'd have to wrap that thing like 15 times. And another thing to consider is that the size of your Bosal corresponds with the size of your Mecate, and it helps with the balance. It works really well, kind of hand in hand. You know, Bosalita is meant to have a very light Mecates. You put these big old honking things on there, it's weird. It doesn't really work right. You put tiny little string Mecates on this big old hackamore, you just mess up the whole balance. But just always make sure that your Mecates are the same, if not 1 size bigger. Some people say smaller, I don't think that that's right. 1 size bigger, and that way you'll be able to have 1, 2, or 3 wraps, like we discussed earlier. I hope this video helped you guys a lot. I hope that it answered all your questions. Please post if you have any other questions. I'd love to try to get to them as best I can. Thank you so much. God bless.